November 11, 2012. A quiet Caribbean island wakes up to a nightmare. A man is found inside his home with a bullet through the back of his head. By dawn, police have a name: John McAfee. Not the average suspect. A millionaire.
Otat celebrity.
The man whose antivirus software once lived on half the world's computers. When officers arrive to question him, the compound is open. And he's gone. What happens next sounds like a screenplay that got rejected for being too unrealistic. McAfee slips away again and again. He dodges a deportation back to Belize. He buys time with theatrics. He escapes a manhunt that sprawls across borders. At one point, he's openly taunting authorities online, posting updates as if the chase is a game and the whole world is his audience. Warrants stack up. Interpol gets pulled into the search. U.S. resources get involved. And every time the net tightens, he finds a seam and disappears. This isn't just a fugitive story. It's a masterclass in how one person can turn law enforcement, sometimes across multiple countries, into a punchline. So how does one man stay free that long? And what happens when the run finally ends? To understand that, you have to go back to where the legend began. Silicon Valley. Personal computers are exploding into offices and homes, and with them comes a new kind of fear: computer viruses. One of the earliest IBM PC viruses, Brain, is spreading through floppy disks like a digital plague. Most people don't even understand what a virus is yet. They just know the word. Infection has entered the tech world. John McAfee is a programmer at Lockheed. He sees the panic and the opportunity. In his spare time, he writes a detection program, names it Virus Scan, and suddenly the phone starts ringing. Companies want protection. They want certainty. They want someone to tell them they're safe. Within weeks, the demand grows. Within months, McAfee quits Lockheed and starts selling his software full-time. McAfee Associates is born out of the trunk of his car. Part hustle, part prophecy, part perfect timing. And here's what made him dangerous as a businessman. His genius wasn't only technical. It was psychological. In interviews, he warns that computer viruses will push companies to the edge. Financial collapse. Operational breakdown. Catastrophe. He amplifies the public terror just enough to make IT managers feel the clock ticking. Not exaggerated enough to sound like fantasy, just enough to feel inevitable. And the strategy works. By 1990, the story goes, half the Fortune 100 are paying for McAfee's antivirus. Revenue hits around $5 million annually and keeps doubling at a dizzying pace. McAfee becomes Silicon Valley royalty. The man who tamed a new digital wilderness. But he hates the crown. Board meetings bore him. Quarterly earnings calls feel like prison. He complains that corporate life means 1,000 bosses, shareholders, regulators, lawyers, everyone demanding obedience and predictability. And John McAfee is not built for predictability. Accounts of his past paint. A pattern. Expelled from a doctoral program after sleeping with a professor's daughter. Fired from engineering work after showing up high on hallucinogens. Stories of drug-fueled paranoia so intense. He once hid behind a dumpster in panic. A man who, later on, would deliberately antagonize convention, hosting bizarre rituals, shocking stunts, anything to prove he couldn't be controlled. So in 1993, he does what few people have the nerve to do: he cashes out. He sells his shares for around $100 million and walks away from the empire bearing his name. He's 48 and free. For a while he floats. Yoga retreats, ultralight aircraft, Eastern mysticism. But nothing truly holds him. And then the financial crash hits in 2008, and the bottom drops out. His fortune evaporates. The script describes his net worth plunging from 9 figures down to around $4 million. That loss doesn't humble him. It sharpens him. He becomes convinced that institutions, governments, regulators, tax agencies, are parasites designed to drain personal freedom. He starts saying it out loud. He'll never let the state own his life. And in 2009, he makes a move that feels like the start of a new identity. He boards a plane to Belize.
No extradiscentriti. No IRS.
No rules, at least not the rules he recognizes. Just turquoise water, white sand, and the promise of absolute autonomy. He buys property on Ambergris Cay, a beachside villa. Then he buys a jungle compound near Orange Walk. He hires armed security, local muscle, men with rough pasts, the kind of presence meant to warn people from a distance. He builds a makeshift lab and claims he's researching herbal antibiotics, hunting a cure for superbugs in jungle plants. He starts a company, Corimex, to give the operation a legitimate face. To outsiders, it looks like another eccentric rich expat playing scientist. But according to the story, something darker is forming underneath. His paranoia, once useful in business, curdles into obsession. He surrounds himself with young women, staff who rely on his money, a compound where loyalty is reinforced by fear and dependence. He throws bonfire parties, where weapons are displayed like props. By day, he's flying an ultralight over the reef. By night, he's building a kingdom made of security cameras, bodyguards, and distrust. Locals whisper too. Versions of the same sentence: he's insane, or he's dangerous. Possibly both. And here's the irony that hangs over everything. This is a man who built his name on protection, but now he's living like someone preparing for war. Then the fuse gets lit. Before the real explosion, the story asks the key question. What turns a millionaire tech genius into a jungle warlord? And why would a man famous for safety end up accused of the opposite? But first, protection. McAfee understood something most people ignore. Your digital life is constantly watched. Every search, every click, tracked, logged, analyzed. And that leads into the sponsor segment. Today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. The pitch is simple. If you're researching sensitive topics, digging through databases, hitting geo-blocked sources, you don't want your ISP seeing everything and websites tracking your location. Surfshark masks your IP, encrypts your connection, and lets you access content from anywhere. It also promotes Surfshark Alert, monitoring whether your personal data shows up in a leak. Then comes the call to action. Go to surfshark.com/blackkfiles or use code BLACKFILES for extra months, plus a 30-day money-back guarantee. And then the story snaps back into the nightmare, because now the government shows up at his door. April 30th, 2012. Belize's gang suppression unit hits McAfee's compound with military precision. The script emphasizes, no warrant shown. Tactical officers storm the property, line up McAfee, his girlfriend, and staff against a wall at gunpoint. His dogs, massive mastiffs bred for aggression, charge the intruders. An officer shouts. One lunges. A shotgun blast drops the animal mid-stride. McAfee explodes in rage, screaming about the dog. Officers pin him in the dirt. The raid lasts for hours. They overturn lab gear, seize firearms, confiscate bottles of chemicals McAfee claims are antibiotic compounds. And at the end of it all, no drugs recovered. The only charge described is an unlicensed firearm, paperwork level, a misdemeanor. Yet they haul him to Belize City anyway and throw him into a holding tank locals call the piss house, a filthy cell named after the open sewer running through it. He spends the night bribing a guard for a cigarette, using a garbage bag as a belt because his own is confiscated. He's released the next morning without charges. But something flips in his mind. After that raid, he's convinced the government wants him dead. Is he paranoid? Maybe. Is he wrong? The story leaves that question hanging because after the raid, he sleeps with a Glock under his pillow. He installs trip wires and cameras. He starts telling visitors about assassination plots, corrupt police cartels working together. Belize's prime minister will later call him extremely paranoid, even bonkers. McAfee wears it like armor, because to him, paranoia isn't insanity. It's survival. And while McAfee is fortifying his compound, a smaller conflict is boiling right next door. 50 yards away on Ambergris Cay, a man named Gregory Fall, a 52-year-old expat from Florida, wants quiet sunshine. Instead, he gets John McAfee as a neighbor. The script describes 9 dogs roaming the beach, barking through the night, sometimes biting tourists. Fall files complaints. He confronts McAfee. Control your dogs, or I'll take care of them myself. McAfee refuses. He says he needs them for security. The feud simmers for weeks, until November 9, 2012, when something breaks. That night, McAfee's dogs start foaming at the mouth. One by one, for collapse, convulsing. By dawn, they're dead poisoned. McAfee is devastated, then enraged. He orders staff to shoot the dying dogs to end their suffering. He paces the compound with a pistol, furious, convinced someone sent a message. Maybe cartels. Maybe corrupt police. Maybe the neighbor who threatened his dogs. 24 hours later, November 10, 2012. A single gunshot cracks the night air on Ambergris Cay. Neighbors hear it and dismiss it as fireworks. Then comes Sunday morning, November 11th. A housekeeper finds Gregory fall face up on his villa floor in a pool of blood. A 9mm round through the back of his head, execution style. His laptop and phone are missing. The island freezes. An American murdered in paradise. Belize police move fast. They go to question Fall's volatile neighbor. When they arrive around noon, McAfee's gate is open and the compound is abandoned. He saw them coming. He grabs his girlfriend, Samantha, and vanishes into the jungle. The story underlines the image. By the time officers knock, McAfee is already underground, literally buried in sand, hiding as the opening teased. The man who once sold digital safety is now the prime suspect in a homicide, and, in his mind, he's at war with an entire government. What did John McAfee know about Gregory Fall's death? And how does a 70-something millionaire disappear inside a small country with roadblocks, helicopters, and dogs? He doesn't run blindly. The script claims he's been preparing. Mapping safe houses, cultivating contacts, building a network of people who can't be followed. Within hours, he and Samantha move through hideouts in Belize's interior. Abandoned warehouses, sympathetic locals' homes, a fishing shack on a mangrove river. Police sweep the district with helicopters. Roadblocks go up. Anyone connected to McAfee gets raided. But McAfee stays a ghost. Mid-story, the narrator breaks for engagement. If you're enjoying this, smash the like button, subscribe, because next week's story is even wilder. Then the chase continues. On day 3, hiding in a concrete bunker while police search nearby, McAfee finds an old TV and watches Swiss Family Robinson, the 1960 film about castaways building a life on a deserted island. He eats canned beans and laughs at the parallel, joking about building a treehouse. But the joke masks the reality. Every hour he stays in Belize, his odds of escape shrink. He needs an exit. November 14, 2012, 3 days after the murder, he executes the plan. Under cover of darkness, he boards a fishing boat on Belize's southern coast and pays $2,000 cash for an illegal crossing into Guatemala. No passport stamp. No record. The boat cuts its engine offshore, drifts into Guatemalan waters, and lands around 3 a.m. near Puerto Barrios. McAfee and Samantha disappear into the jungle. By sunrise, they're in Guatemala City, checking into the Villa Royale Hotel under fake names. For the first time in 72 hours, he exhales. He made it out. But John McAfee cannot resist the spotlight. With the murder dominating international headlines, he decides to control the narrative. He contacts Vice through Encrypted email and offers exclusive access to the world's most wanted antivirus mogul. Vice flies in an editor and photographer. They spend 2 days with him. Photos go up. A triumphant update. We're safe. The post goes viral and McAfee feels invincible. But the story hits him with the most brutal irony of all. The thing that made him famous, technology, betrays him. A hacker tweets, "John, I found you. Check your photos' EXIF data." Embedded in the image metadata are GPS coordinates, exactly where he's hiding. A media victory becomes a catastrophic blunder. December 5, 2012 to 24 days after Fall's murder, Guatemalan police storm the hotel. McAfee is in the lobby with his lawyers when officers surround him. Handcuffs snap. Cameras flash. The charge, illegal entry. The consequence, Deportation back to Belize within 48 hours. For McAfee, being sent back isn't just arrest. It's a death sentence. He believes the moment he's handed over, he'll disappear into a cell. Or a grave. The clock is ticking. Then he pulls a move that feels like pure performance art. December 6, 2012, one day after arrest. Inside detention, McAfee collapses, clutching his chest.
Gasping mi corazón.
Guards panic. Ambulance. Hospital. Global headlines. John McAfee suffered 2 heart attacks in custody. Guatemala freezes the deportation, terrified of an international incident. Reporters swarm the hospital. McAfee lies on a gurney with oxygen tubes, grimacing for cameras like an actor playing himself. 2 days later, doctors announce, stable, no heart damage, slightly elevated blood pressure. McAfee smirks. He later admits he faked it. Hyperventilated, held his breath, manipulated readings, sold the performance with full conviction. The stunt buys time for lawyers to file emergency appeals and gum up bureaucracy. And in the chaos, Guatemala chooses the path of least resistance. Instead of deporting him to Belize, they deport him to the United States, his country of origin. A legal quirk because he entered Guatemala illegally from Belize. McAfee just checkmated an entire country. December 12, 2012. Miami International Airport. John McAfee steps off the plane disheveled, unshaven, and victorious. He outfoxed a 2-country manhunt, faked a medical emergency, and turned near-certain capture into a free flight home. Federal agents question him briefly, but with no U.S. charges pending at the time, they release him. He walks into Florida sunshine grinning at cameras. It's good to be home, but the story doesn't let you breathe, because now comes the next question. How does a fugitive become a celebrity? And what happens when the country you thought was safe turns out to be hunting you too? January 2013. Portland, Oregon. McAfee marries Janice, described as 30 years younger, someone he met on his first night back. He tries domestic life, coffee, parks, Netflix, like he's testing whether normalcy fits. Doesn't. For months later, he's bored senseless and back to provocation. He releases a viral YouTube video, How to Uninstall McAfee Antivirus, a surreal dark comedy that mocks the software. Still bearing his name, it racks up millions of views. Then he announces a 2016 presidential run under a newly created cyber party. The platform is wild. Legalize drugs, abolish the IRS, encrypt everything. He polls at 0, yet he dominates headlines. Because McAfee isn't simply living anymore. He's performing. By 2018, he finds his next stage. Cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins. He declares them the future and himself their prophet. He lives on a 75-foot yacht with satellite internet, a floating fortress, because he knows what's coming. He hasn't filed taxes since 2010. He hasn't paid the IRS in years. Taxation is theft, he says. He calls the IRS a criminal organization. The IRS, unsurprisingly, disagrees. January 2019, a federal grand jury in Tennessee secretly indicts him on multiple counts of tax evasion and failure to file, charges that could mean decades in prison. A source tips him off. So McAfee doesn't surrender. He starts the yachts, engines, and disappears into the Caribbean. He tweets photos of himself on deck, sometimes holding a rifle, declaring he left the U.S. and is freer than ever. What follows is an 18-month maritime cat-and-mouse game unlike anything in modern fugitive history. He hops countries by sea, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, possibly Venezuela, constantly shifting harbors. Every few days, a new port. Every few days, a taunting tweet. He survives on cash and crypto, uses encrypted phones and VPNs, claims body doubles and disguises. He posts photos with lookalikes, jokes that even if you see him, it might not be him. Is it paranoia? Is it strategy? With McAfee, it's always hard to separate. Because airports are traps. Passport scans end the story. So he avoids commercial flights entirely. Instead, he weaponizes constant motion and constant publicity. It's a paradox. Fame protects him. Governments prefer quiet arrests. McAfee makes quiet impossible. By broadcasting his location to millions, sometimes real, sometimes decoy, he floods the situation with noise. He gives interviews from undisclosed rooms, dares the IRS to find him. He posts absurd stunts and pranks, sending authorities chasing phantoms. Then, July 24, 2019.
Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic.
His yacht docks to refuel. Local authorities, tipped by Interpol alerts, swarm the pier. They board the vessel and detain McAfee, Janice, and crew on suspicion of illegal firearms. After all that running, he's caught. But again, the story turns. After 4 days of negotiations, implied wheeling and dealing, possibly cash, Dominican authorities release him without charges. They want no part of the circus. McAfee sails away raising a glass, bragging that even when he's arrested, he walks free. But the net tightens. By late 2019, he relocates to Eastern Europe and starts posting cryptic threats. He claims he has files on government corruption worldwide, that if he goes down, others go down too. Whether bluff, insurance, delusion, or all three, the effect is the same. He's trying to make himself too loud to touch. Then in 2020, something shifts. Maybe travel, restrictions, maybe exhaustion, maybe miscalculation. He stops running. He and Janice rent an apartment near Barcelona, Spain. He keeps a low profile. And on October 5, 2020, he heads to Barcelona's airport, reportedly bound for Istanbul. At check-in, the passport scan flags his name. Within minutes, Spanish police surround him. After years of evasion, after humiliating authorities. Across borders, John McAfee is arrested at the request of the U.S. Department of Justice. The game is over. Or is it? Now he's locked in a concrete cell awaiting extradition.
No guns. No gadgets.
No yacht. No Twitter on demand, just walls and time. Through lawyers, he manages sporadic messages. In one, he writes something chilling, he's content. But if he's found hanged, it won't be his fault, an unmistakable reference to Jeffrey Epstein. He'd even gotten a tattoo earlier, a $sign and whacked, suggesting he believed he was marked. To the public, he insists he will not commit
Suicide.
To the Spanish court, he argues the charges are political, that he's being persecuted as a dissident. The court is unmoved. U.S. prosecutors work diplomatic channels. The charges are serious, tax evasion, millions owed, and separate allegations tied to cryptocurrency schemes. McAfee knows what extradition means in his mind. Dying in an American prison. He tells confidants he won't permit that fate. But in messages to Janice, he stays defiant, claiming no fear, even as the cage closes. June 23, 2021. The Spanish National Court signs the extradition order. Within the hour, officials inform McAfee he could be transferred to U.S. custody soon, possibly within days. He calls Janice, "I love you. I'll call you this evening." But there is no evening call. Around 7 p.m., guards find John McAfee hanging from a bedsheet in his cell. Paramedics arrive quickly. He's pronounced dead at 7:23 p.m. The official cause: suicide by hanging. He is 75, caught at last, yet still refusing to go quietly. But you don't get a story like McAfee's without an aftershock. His supporters insist he wasn't suicidal. Janice says he was upbeat in their final conversation and that the timing, hours after the extradition order, feels too convenient. Spanish authorities conduct an autopsy. Toxicology shows no drugs. The conclusion: asphyxiation consistent with hanging. The investigation rules it suicide. Still, conspiracy theories flood the internet. Did he have files on powerful people? Was he silenced? Or did he orchestrate one final trick, fake his death and escape into legend? And then there's the most tragic possibility of all. That the man who vowed never to yield simply chose the only exit that let him keep control. Even after death, the story resists closure. His body remains in a Spanish morgue for months as legal battles unfold. And in the end, you're left with a portrait that feels uniquely modern. a man who built an empire. On fear, turned paranoia into profit, and transformed his life into performance art, thumbing his nose at governments until the day the walls finally closed in. He once said something like, "It's better to live one day as a lion than 1,000 years as a lamb." And whether you see him as genius, menace, clown, or cautionary tale, he lived like he believed that. And if you think John McAfee's story is wild, the narrator tees up the next click. Check out the previous video, The Man Who Outsmarted the NSA, another deep dive into someone who made the feds look lick. Click it now.
Et amateur.